Hello, my name is Joseph Oseusu, First Deputy Speaker of Parliament of Ghana. Keep watching State of Affairs.
State of Affairs is proudly brought to you by Cowbell Coffee.
Hello once again, welcome. This is State of Affairs brought to you in association with Cowbell Coffee. Tonight we are focusing not on politics but on Miegyina, a community in the Elembele district, and of course it goes down to policies, and so that's what we're looking at tonight. In case you missed the story on News Tonight, here is a playback.
To be poor is hard. But to be a poor race in a land enriched with resources is the very bottom of hardship, and life becomes a thorny path to those whom poverty oppresses.
The Amansule River in the Western region. Wondering why I'm wading through this river? Where I'm going to? Or perhaps what is even beyond this point? I am in the Western region, the Elembele constituency to be precise. This district is among 21 other districts here in the Western region. And beyond this point is Miegyina, a community, small community which is estranged from other major townships. Let's get to find out some shocking revelations and intriguing revelations and the way of life, what sits with them in terms of resources, and how life actually is beyond this point.
The sweeping vegetation that stretches across the Amansule River to the far side of Insulezu is a vast and rich land with a small number of people living on it. Miegyina is a small community in the Elembele district in the Western region. Life here can best be described as primitive. We spent half an hour fording to the bank of the river. At the riverbank, we were informed by the young man who brought us with a canoe that we had to walk about 30 kilometers through the forest before getting to the community. We began to walk while carrying our luggage. It got stressful as we covered more ground. We eventually arrived in the community. To my utmost surprise, it looked bleak and desolate. There wasn't much happening. And the settlement layout was cluttered and built with mud, while a few were partially plastered with cement. When the locals noticed our presence, they curiously stared. It was heartbreaking to see the elderly walking unsteadily towards us and stopping in mid-strides, while the kids also faltered due to sickness which could clearly be seen on their faces. This prompted me to walk through the community to understand what significantly defined life in Miegyina. It was extremely easy to walk the length and breadth of the community without missing our way due to its small size. We discovered that potable water, electricity, healthcare facility, and schools were all non-existent. Shocking, the only structure in the community that was used as a school was in a deplorable state. You could clearly tell that teaching and learning haven't been done for years in that space. We were told it was abandoned by pupils because their parents couldn't afford to pay 1 cedi a month as tuition fee. I was interested to know who was responsible for teaching the kids in the community. I eventually met with the teacher, Nicholas. Nicholas is a missionary who visited Miegyina and was appalled by the level of illiteracy in the community. He took it upon himself to do something about the situation.
This is the class. It is 2. I have to divide them into 2. Some are the other class and some are the other class, so that because if I want to keep them, the room is too small for them, so I have to separate them. So I taught 2 years, and then the parents couldn't afford just 1 cedi for a child. They couldn't afford for about 1.5 years. They couldn't, so I have to just give up.
Having learned that the director of education has promised to post a teacher to the community, I took a chance to visit the home that had been prepared for him by members of the community. The abject poverty in the community drove the teacher away without any explanation to elders of the town. This daunting situation about the lack of education amidst other imminent issues such as poor roads, proper healthcare facility, has been the heartache of the chief in the land. The chief expressed worry about the perilous state of the community.
A house is time no hiding. A funny sukuko near Carquine, Lati Abbey, you need to crack. Abaya Basina or Bahaba to Aba or to Abaya. The FFL Mukwano, only a beam. Until say, ya brepa say, you moi, I'll be boy na, you could answer to pom. Saying, go for your cool big room, FFL, that is in Swamp Benumpo Island. I am a young school corner. Of I could be consigning son of Marcus School.
There are 2 impents in Miegyina. Out of sheer curiosity, I tried accessing the second alternative. I found to my dismay that locals had to wade 4 miles through water and on ground to reach the next available town, Benin. Due to this obvious risk, the chief has reached a consensus with parents to only send children above 6 years to school. At the time of our visit, the water had receded. Something else struck me about the town. Some buildings had been pulled down. The youth organizer in the community explained the exodus of people from the town because of the stifling economic conditions. These structures are pulled down by occupants to signify that they are never returning to Miegyina. These people are part of the Ghanaian voters. They vote to elect leaders to lift them out of their abject poverty. But this hope is quickly becoming a dream each passing day.
But it is sad to know that the eyes and ears of the authorities have been closed to the plight and cries of these people in Miegyina community. This is the life beyond the greens. Shocking revelations, disheartening and heartbreaking. Joshua Nana Kwame Ayira, GH1 News.
Right. So that was the report by Joshua Ayira, a journalist with GH1 TV who spent last weekend in Miegyina. Right. Tonight, my guest, Joshua Ayira himself is with us in the studio, and Charles Aheto Chega. He's the Executive Secretary for the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment and former educationist and former Director General of the Ghana Education Service. We're basically looking at life beyond the greens. You're both welcome to the show. I want to start with you, Mr. Aheto Chega. I mean, is this new to you as somebody who headed the Ghana Education Service? You must have traveled the length and breadth of this country and seen similar pictures.
Honestly, it's not very new to me. It's this situation in a lot of the villages that are not very close to what I call the trade routes, and especially in the forest areas, you could have so many of this kind of settlements. I'll call them settlements within, especially the forest area, largely on account of people trying to earn a living from agriculture and other activities that are very much on the subsistence level. So it's not very new, but again, it raises the issue about the extent to which development has reached our people, and especially when you begin to talk about the 21st century, and certainly is a matter of concern that this particular case has come up for consideration.
Okay, Joshua, I mean, you appeared shocked when the teacher told you that parents couldn't afford 1 cedi a month to get their children educated. I mean, what was the cause of the shock? Because it was just 1 cedi?
Well, to me, I would say yes, because it was just 1 cedi. But to these people, based on what I saw, what I observed, I could say that 1 cedi was hard to come by, because it was very difficult to even see a grocery store in there, and then to say that maybe they get to sell something small to make a living outside, basically depending on what...
Did you know the population of this town?
They are not up to 300.
Okay, it's a very small community.
Very small community. So basically what they depend on is what they produce. That's through their farms. That's what they... So 1 cedi was shocking when I had the teacher tell me that he actually had to visit the homes to even encourage the parents. Do you let them come, and then while I'm still teaching them, we can just make this money and then get to pay them. But they still declined the whole initiative, saying that the 1 cedi was way too much. And according to the teachers, some of them even said they pleaded if they could pay 10 peso something, 10 pesos, and I felt that it was way too much for me to really fathom, because 1 cedi, we're talking about 1 cedi.
I mean, he looks, he's an urban boy, so we can understand his shock. But of course, if you look at the way poverty just stares you in the face when you look at the pictures from the community, you can understand why 1 cedi is such a big deal for them. But in instances where the education of the children is affected, what does the Ghana Education Service do? Because at that age, education is compulsory, isn't it?
Yes, I think the issue is about, again, I talked about reach. And for this particular instance, it's important that this matter has been raised, and therefore has created the need for the GES to pay attention to it. Now, you learned that because of the location of Miegyina, is that right?
Yes.
Good. Because of its location, it's, let me say, hard to reach, and therefore there aren't a lot of facilities that would get into those communities. But again, that is not an excuse, because it boils down to the district level activities that should generate and create these opportunities for the people. But specifically when it comes to education, and again, I was surprised that I was hearing that they should pay 1 cedi. Now, my surprise is that education is supposed to be free, especially at the basic level. So why is anybody wanting to collect? So then immediately, I think that this teacher was trying to set up the kind of schools that we find in areas where government is unable to provide education. So one must live. But I think that what the point he missed there was, I'm not too sure he understood the community. If he understood the community, he would not even ask for the 1 cedi. He would ask for something else.
Such as?
I'll tell you. Before, I don't know whether you know Afram Plains, Donko Chrome, Afram Plains. Before it became as beautiful as it is now, government set up a secondary school there, which is an agric secondary school. It was very difficult for the parents to pay cash for fees. So the headmaster had to devise a new way of collecting fees, and you can guess what it was. Foodstuff, because the students will have to feed and all of that. And I even know a private school in Ho of all places, that collects foodstuff from parents who are unable to pay. So again, there is the alternative that you can adopt.
What if the teacher has no need for foodstuff?
Yes, then that is where the challenge is, because interestingly, in those communities, you don't have the kind of economic transactions that deal with money.
Okay.
You know, within that space, what if you even have 50 Ghana cedis, what are you going to use it for? Who's collecting it for what? Because there is no car coming that is going to ask you to pay, let's say, even 10 pesos.
Right.
When you are walking through the river, who's collecting money from you? It's just that you do a lot of prayer that no river snake will just spike you. So you don't have that need for that money. Of course, we can create it. And that is part of the whole economic expansionism that we should try to put in place.
Now, I mentioned earlier that this is down to policies. You wanted to add on, or should I just go on, Joshua?
Yes.
Okay.
The one cedi the teacher actually wanted wasn't some form of pecuniary compensation, but it was to acquire more materials to teach these kids, because this very person or this missionary man had to spend what he had to provide for books, uniforms, and other materials that will aid or facilitate the whole teaching process. So what he wanted the money for was to get or to acquire more materials to enhance studies or to improve proficiency and all of that. But that was the challenge. And he was also cash strapped at some point. So he needed these things.
Okay.
All right. Now, because the chief told you that politicians come there to campaign, and right after the election, they don't come back. So the reach is not really such an excuse now, because they find a way to get to these communities.
The community itself is a polling station.
It is a polling station.
Yes, a polling station.
It will be a polling station.
Interestingly, it's a polling station. So that tells us that these people also cast their votes.
So people reach them. Yeah,
but after, they just, it's more or less like...
okay. I mean, you headed the Ghana Education Service. When you see these stories, do you feel that the Education Service is doing enough, together with the Ministry of Education, is doing enough?
Well, enough, I would say yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, to the extent possible within the resources that we have.
Okay.
Now, let's note that we have an education system that is largely dependent on community participation.
Right.
So we look forward to a lot of community participation. Now, you have heard that we used to make a lot of noise about schools under trees. Schools under trees are not government creations. Schools under trees are like that school you saw in the village. Granted that it survived, it will be a perfect example of a school under tree, and that is the initiative of the community. Now, so once these happen, then the demand then pops up, and you begin to put it there. And again, it's important to have a certain demand that would enable the system to survive. Increasingly, we've discovered that in certain places where government has gone ahead to even put schools and accommodation for teachers, because the demand has not been there, many of those facilities are sitting somewhere in the bush and nobody's going into it. So that demand must come. Now, the whole issue is, again, tied to resources. And I would not even look at the Ghana Education Service headquarters. You're looking at the district level. I mean, the district, through the decentralization system, is responsible for the education delivery at that level. So I would go straight and say, District Chief Executive, do you know Miegyina?
Right.
And he should be able to tell me about Magina. And if he even collects lampo in that area, then he must provide something for that. And even if he doesn't collect lampo, he must create that opportunity that will enable its to happen. So it's all embedded in our governance system, and again the whole issue of once we vote for you, you must demonstrate this for us so that things work out.
Okay, now you brought up a very important issue, accommodation for teachers, because we understand the teacher who was posted there got so frustrated that he abandoned the community. Now I know the GES has been dealing with this problem for the longest period. Has there been any improvement at all?
Well, I shudder to say there had been improvements, because again, most of the projects that have taken place within the Ghana Education Service over the past years have focused on classroom facilities. Very few have combined classrooms and teacher accommodation. So the imbalance in terms of classroom facilities and teacher accommodation has been a serious upset for the system. So there's a huge challenge. There are still teachers in communities, and especially if you take the kind of Miegyina, in the rural areas, people don't build with the intention to rent accommodation. So that you have a luxury to build your own house and build one expecting that somebody will come and you take rent. The building will collapse. So once you are posted there as a teacher, you have a big challenge in terms of accommodation. And you know, the GS is finding ways by which they can get around this issue, even to the extent of looking at the various teacher unions, you know, coming forward to do something about the accommodation issue and ensuring that they can make some contribution that will reduce the kind of pressures that teachers face when they go to communities like Magina.
Okay, now if you look at the children in the story, I mean, no school, no hospital, no clinic, and since you're here, we're just focusing on education. I mean, that's problematic, that they're not going to school, and the problem can stay this way till they become adolescents, and it probably will never change. Does it frustrate you? I mean, for somebody who was at the GS, now retired, and still involved in education somehow?
Yes, it is very, very frustrating. And again, that's the reason why many of us are looking for a change in the way we deliver the kinds of services, especially in the area of education and health. Certainly, there is a way of managing this situation and ensuring that some remedies are done. I can give you another nice example of a place in the Miegyina district. In fact, even before you get into the village, which is called the Threja, I mean, you got through a puddle of water. You know, and I went there with the 4x4, and the vehicle was dancing all around the place, and everybody was excited that I came there, you know, because for them this was very, very unusual. But once you get into the village, I mean, they are cocoa farmers, so well, they are able to make some amount of physical cash into their system in terms of the additional subsistence farming that they do. So it's very, very frustrating. It is very frustrating, but again, the service depends on government to be effective, and therefore it requires that support, you know, to be able to deliver all of its services.
Just also tell us how the story came to your attention.
It all started when we arrived. I went with an NGO who they went there purposely for an exercise.
What's the name of this NGO?
Colorful Steps Foundation.
Okay.
And so when we got there, I saw the situation, and I just retorted to myself that there could be something more to uncover, to understand with regards to this place, because everything, the environment, it's natural, you can tell, but the people are not living that so much natural life we can actually think of. I mean, the name Life Beyond the Greens came about when, I mean, approaching this vegetation, this stretch, sweeping across that plain, I mean, it brings something to your conscience. You get to understand that life over here could be interesting. I mean, living with the nature and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really green, so beautiful.
So I was curious to know, okay, fine, what goes beyond there? I mean, what actually happens inside there? And so that's when that's where the whole idea came. And so I decided to just visit or walk around. And like I said in the story, I could just walk. It's very easy to walk the length and breadth of the whole community because it's very small. So, but I actually didn't see any school. The only thing I saw, I could say it's a makeshift they were using. And so that was where the whole interest started. and I decided to go. And I realized that there wasn't any literate person in the school. I mean, in the community. The only person was an outsider, if I should say. That was the missionary man who happened to be the only person. And his concern was that it's sad to know that if you come from this place and there's nothing to boast of, there's no one who can represent the community out there to say that, okay, I come from this place. Obviously, people who belong to this probably might have traveled outside and grew up outside. So you will be told.
Well, you had a smile on your face. I'm wondering what the smile was.
Because
is it a bevy of ladies, or was it such a great...
Obviously, no, because we were sitting behind me. It was just the things that were just mumbling, things that they were saying, you know, the prayers they were making.
So they were praying.
Exactly. It wasn't so comfortable. We got to a point where we were informed that we need to be on guard because we can have animals or just jumping over and all of that. And the boats, you know, you can have water just getting in. So all of that. So it wasn't so much of a jolly ride as you can see with the green and making it so nice, smiling. But inside there, it was a lot happening within us.
It's interesting. It looks very much like the Amazon.
Yes.
If you begin to look at the life in the Amazon, it's very similar to this. And again, comparatively, you have similar challenges, especially in the Amazon. Now, the interesting thing about this, you can see that there's a lot of migration from that village out into the cities.
Yes.
And again, the question was, how are those who come from Miegyina, you know, contributing to...
Well, they're pulling down their structures and saying they're never going back.
So again, there's a bit about the community mobilization and to respond to their specific needs and bring a solution to some of these challenges. Because I believe that with a very strong voice, and even the NGO, I mean, could become a strong voice to advocate for specific support. And I'm happy this has come on TV. Not a lot of real structural interventions will come here to destroy the vegetation and the environment. But I believe that, you know, other alternatives will be brought in the future. Probably government might want to even relocate the whole village out of that space and then see what.
Okay. And also, Mr. Ahetochega, I mean, it's not the first time you're hearing of anything like this, and definitely not the first time you're seeing a reportage of the sort on TV. I mean, when you lot sit at the GES and you see these reports on TV, what strikes you immediately?
Well, it just reminds me that there's a lot still to do. A lot more still to do, especially in the area of strengthening access to school and providing facilities for school. Then it begins to raise a whole stream of issues around policies and what we can do. And I've mentioned a few of the things that we can do here. Part of it is to even begin within Miegyina itself and begin to look at things. But again, the external support should go in to try and set things up.
So you reckon the district assembly should immediately move in?
The district assembly should immediately move in and try and do something about that particular location. It is first and foremost the responsibility of the district assembly, not anybody in Accra. It is the district assembly that must go in immediately.
Okay. Now, in your conversation with the chief, I mean, apart from saying that the politicians come and then they go and they never come, it's because the politicians bring them bags of rice. They do take the bags of rice. They don't, you know, ask them questions. They don't seek accountability. So if every 4 years they'll come in then is the same business as usual, then nothing really will change. But what did he tell you about the district assembly? Are they in touch? Have they made any efforts?
Yes, I did follow up on that with a couple of questions, and he answered by saying, I asked him what they've done to get the attention of the appropriate authorities, especially from the district level. They have written some letters, they have approached them, the chief himself, with some members of the council. They've been there quite a number of times, and all they get just words. Will come and then they never return, or they never come to the place. And to him, I asked him, does he think it's because of the road? Because leading to the place is very, very bad. And he said, well, it could be, but that is what they've been living with and be living by. So if you give your word that you're going to really help out, I think you should. He was saying that you should just get in there, get to understand why they are very desperate for a change, and they've actually not received anything, even from the education ministry at the district level. They also came. They gave the name the Miegyina DA Primary. So on their records, that's the name they have, but nothing.
The school is non-existent.
Nothing has been done about it. So yes, they have drawn the attention of the authorities and at the district level, but nothing has been gotten out of that, and it's quite sad. I mean, he made certain emphases that he wakes up every morning and he's wondering who is next to stay and who is next to leave.
Sad, isn't it? All right, let's take a break. We'll come back with more. This is State of Affairs brought to you by Cowbell Coffee. Tonight, we are talking about Miegyina, a community in the Elembele district of the Western region. We'll be right back.
MTN Mobile Money, you can take your bank with you everywhere you go. Dial *170# and follow the prompts. Connect your bank account to your mobile money wallet to load and transfer money between your wallet and your bank account. Take your bank with you everywhere you go with MTN Mobile Money.
What I should take away? I bet two, No.
Experience the new world of better money.
Sensitive teeth definitely holds you back. You tend to avoid a whole lot of things, and that's not you. You have a tiring day, you grab a cold water, you are drinking it. The pain comes, and it's so very sharp, and you just stop for like some seconds. Someone talks to you, and you're like, wait. That was when I was like, I have to do something about it. So I saw a dentist, and she recommended Sensodyne. I'm like, I just need toothpaste. Life's back to normal. Even better than normal. That was good. No pain, no shock.
Indigestion and heartburn? You could experience a sour taste in your mouth, or a burning sensation in the throat, the chest, the stomach discomfort, or even heaviness. Don't let indigestion or heartburn symptoms slow you down. Always reach for Andrews. It starts to work in seconds, so you can keep on living your life non-stop. Andrews fights indigestion and heartburn fast. If symptoms persist after 2 days, consult your doctor. Not suitable for children under the age of 3.
A little helping hand will go a long way to get your meals tasting really delicious. So season your cooking with Unger for that delicious taste and irresistible aroma that will get your loved ones looking forward to mealtimes. Unger.
MTN Mobile Money, you can take your bank with you everywhere you go. Dial *170# and follow the prompts. Connect your bank account to your mobile money wallet to load and transfer money between your wallet and your bank account. Take your bank with you everywhere you go with MTN Mobile Money.
What I should take away? I bet two, No.
Experience the new world of better money.
They'll go with the 4-4-2 diamond formation for that early lead. An early goal will settle the nerves.
The away team has been in bad form. They will feel the pressure.
The home side's kept 2 clean sheets in a row.
It's all about momentum.
Who will have the stamina to last the 90 minutes?
The star striker is suspended.
They've got no kappa.
The marking will be tight.
This will be won or lost in the midfield.
This is why I bet.
This is why I bet.
This is why I bet. Betway, for the love of the game.
Indigestion and heartburn? You could experience a sour taste in your mouth, or a burning sensation in the throat, the chest, the stomach discomfort, or even heaviness. Don't let indigestion or heartburn symptoms slow you down. Always reach for Andrews. It starts to work in seconds, so you can keep on living your life non-stop. Andrews fights indigestion and heartburn fast. If symptoms persist after 2 days, consult your doctor. Not suitable for children.
My name is Kwame Sefaka. You're watching State of Affairs with Nana Banamwa.
You're welcome back to State of Affairs live on GH1 TV. We are talking about the community of Miegyina. Joshua Ayura was there recently. That was just last weekend. Ketsi Colorful Steps Foundation, they actually took him there, and such a revelation in that story. So what exactly did Colorful Steps do for this community?
They went there to have health screening exercise. Malaria, hepatitis B, and blood pressure and the sugar level. And
for Miegyina.
For Miegyina.
Why Miegyina? Did they tell you why they chose?
They actually they wanted a place where it's very remote from mainland. I mean, place where it will be very difficult to access these services or these things. So someone actually helped them out, and they went to the community a month before we went there to just survey the place, and then they got back, and then they reached us, and I was sent there. But I went there to help them out, to cover what they were going to do. But I also had my own interest because I was intrigued by and enthralled by what I saw around there. So the shocking thing was all the kids, they screened about 22 children, and 19 are suffering malaria.
Oh.
Yes, 19. They had their health team, nurses, lab technicians, 19. And the elderly, they screened 18. We were testing or just trying to screen with, has to do with sugar level. And out of the 18, 4
had
problems with their sugar level, and then pressure as well, with pressure to 25, and then they had about 16 so having that. So when it comes to health, they have challenges, so severe challenge, and malaria was the common thing. Ironically, they have the nets,
the mosquito nets.
Yes, but they don't use them.
What do they use?
So when they have been bitten, then they run into the nets, and some of them use the nets for something else, fishing and
fishing.
I mean, that's what they have. It's just there, so they don't really use it that much, and probably they feel much comfortable without them. I mean,
that's so strange. I mean, that's so strange. I didn't know you could use mosquito nets to fish. Anyway, a big thank you to Colorful Steps. Definitely, you'll be bringing us the entire report on what Colorful Steps did on News Tonight on Friday. So be sure to tune in for that story on exactly what Colorful Steps went there to do and who Colorful Steps are. You get more details on Friday. Tune in to News Tonight at 7 p.m. All right, before we go away, I mean, I have to come to you again, Mr. Aheto. I mean, what does your organization do, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment?
Oh, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, but I've just left it and handed over to a very strong lady who's now in charge. Is the new body that is responsible for looking at the curriculum and assessment issues within the education system at the pre-tertiary level. So the agency has just started a process of reviewing the various syllabuses and subjects. You know that government was of the view that we take a look at our education system and begin to examine where we can make specific changes that would enhance learning and then improve on the on the outcomes. So that is the task of that organization. It was created with the intention of ensuring that we have a more harmonized process for dealing with curriculum issues in terms of the various review processes and what we can put into our curriculum. And the process has started. A ministerial advisory committee has been established, and they are looking at what will be done. So we are hoping that following the work of the ministerial advisory committee, there will be an opportunity for a very systematic and robust curriculum revision that would enable us to look at new things that our children will be learning. Already there's the mass complaints that the subjects are too many.
Yes.
And then some people
I left JHS long ago, and I dare say that the subjects are just too many.
How many were they?
I don't remember, but I remember I didn't like technical drawing and technical skills.
Yes, I mean, it's not about what you like, but the number, I mean, it's about...
But it was a lot of subjects.
About 7 to 9, max 10. Yeah. And I know that the curriculum does not test a lot of what we call subjects in the schools. For example, we do PE, it's on the timetable, but it's more of an exercise. We do music and arts and those things, it's a subject, but you don't really, those are not the ones for which we do the rigorous assessments and for which you would determine whether you are going or not. So we are looking at all of that and beginning to understand what is informing the perception that the subjects are many and how we can make sure that we have a very tight
look
system.
At the relevance of the subject.
Yes, it's all about the relevance of the subject, and that's why government has proposed that we even add history, because we need to add history to what the students...
And no literature?
There is literature across the board in terms of the literacy program. The literacy program helps children to read and also includes some literature issues. Currently at the junior high school, they are reading a book called The Cockroach, which is helping them to understand the various literary devices and the number of issues that come into the learning of literature. So some progress is being made in that direction. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. Mr. Charles Ahetochega is the Executive Secretary, well, he was the Executive Secretary of the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, and also the former Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Thank you very much for your time. And Joshua Ayura is a broadcast journalist with GH1 TV. Thank you, Joshua, as well. Thanks to Cowbell for associating itself with this program. Thank you for watching the show. Have a good night.
State of Affairs was proudly brought to you by Cowbell Coffee.